welcome to Unews for Friday, July 12th. I'm Maity, Interiano, filling in for Carolina Sarraza. We begin the second hour with Unews with the major news on Washington Secretary of Labor Alex Acosta, who has resigned. President Trump making the official announcement this morning. The move comes after backlash against Acosta for his handling of a 2008 plea deal for millionaire Jeffrey Epstein. Lorraine Cassidy is in Washington, D.C. with all the details.
A week of intense pressure by advocacy groups and also by Democrats, and finally the secretary made the decision to leave. Only attention the Department of Labor has gotten in the public eye is related to this case from so many years ago. Let's listen.
Thank you, Lorraine. And to other news, meanwhile, Jeffrey Epstein continues his case in Manhattan court. The financier is accused of sex trafficking underage girls. His attorneys are proposing a mega million-dollar bail package to get him out of jail, even as more accusers are coming forward. Now to another major story out of Washington. The Trump administration's push to add a citizenship question to the 2020 census was rejected by the Supreme Court, but that didn't mean that they were putting the issue to rest. Yesterday, the president issued an executive order to work around the court's ruling. Andrea Linares has the details.
We know that some of the steps that President Trump outlines are already underway. The Social Security Administration and Department of Homeland Security have already entered into agreements with the Census Bureau to provide it with information on all non-citizens. Maity, now back to you.
Thank you, Andrea. And panic in many immigrant communities is starting to set in as people brace for ICE raids that are scheduled to begin this weekend in 10 major cities across the United States. Luis Mejia has more on how people are reacting and preparing for the unprecedented operation. Thank you, Luis. In anticipation of anything that could happen this weekend, the ACLU has issued these recommendations to those concerned that ICE agents could show up at their door. Agents, as long as they don't interfere. Remember to stay calm at all times, and if you are arrested, you have the right to make a phone call, which should be to your lawyer or to a family member that can seek legal help. And a delegation from Amnesty International visited a child detention center in Homestead, Florida today to observe the conditions at the facility. This shelter is the nation's largest influx facility, housing over 2,000 children. And because it's classified as temporary facility, the government says it's not subject to state child welfare regulations. It's been heavily criticized for keeping children beyond the 20-day legal limit. Joining us to discuss the conditions at the shelter is Margaret. Last night, Univision's and Lula. Welcome back to Unews. I'm Maity Interiano. More and more Cubans are using social media to speak out against things like the cutting down of neighborhood trees or demanding lower internet prices, an uncommon feat for a country known for repressing free speech. The arrival of high-speed internet earlier in the year is allowing Cubans to organize behind causes and social movements in a way not seen since the Cuban Revolution. Here to talk about the issue also impacting the Cuban citizenship tourism to the island nation will likely drop. And now to the race for the 2020 candidates are cozying up to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the freshman congresswoman who has become a progressive phenomena. Senator Kamala Harris is joining AOC, as she's also known, to introduce legislation aimed at helping people with criminal records get housing. As Angie Sandoval reports, many Democratic presidential hopefuls are hoping to borrow the New York rep star power, although there is one notable exception. And last night in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, several of the candidates battling for the nomination participated in a Univision LULAC forum. The goal? To push the candidates on issues concerning the Latino community. Carolina Rosario looks back at some of the key topics that were covered. And now to North Carolina for an update of a very inspiring story. 17-year-old Paige Winter was badly injured in a shark attack at North Carolina Beach. But the brave teenager is staying positive, saying she's still the same person, just a little bit different. Eileen Cardet has the story. Impressive. Quite the story, and we should all learn from Paige. But after the break, newly released. Welcome back to Unews. Newly released surveillance video shows a massive explosion that completely destroyed a KFC in North Carolina. The video Now, if you've been on social media this week, you've probably seen this viral video. A man ranting in a bagel shop. Well, now that man, Chris Morgan, says that he was being bullied for being short. But one co-worker is telling a different story. Jorge Hernandez has the details. Coming up, is there progress in Venezuela? When we return, we'll have the latest on Instagram users love sharing images of themselves at beautiful locations. But one site in Siberia has been attracting an especially large group of social media users. It definitely looks stunning backdrop, but as Azul Alvarez explains, the site is actually very toxic. And up next, a toy taken off the market because it was a date. And we're back for more Unews today, July 12th, Friday. Welcome back to Unews. An alert for parents of young children about tiny magnets. Those magnets were banned several years ago, and now they're back for sale, this time with a warning label. And as Rafael Rodriguez explains, this has a group of parents very worried. And in today's health news, cutting around 300 calories a day may be beneficial for your heart. That's according to a new study published by the Lancet Diabetes and Endocrinology Journal. And after the break, some inspiration will introduce to you inspirational stories of athletes are one of the best things about sports, and they exist at every level. Medium Arias found inspiration at a preteen girls ice hockey summer camp in Heartland, Wisconsin.
Being different has honestly never been able to stop Lily Rosenthal. She had a dream and she was determined to make it happen. Now her family says that all her coaches have been very supportive, and right now she's playing with the DC Diamond Girls in Waunakee, which is a village in Wisconsin.
I love these kinds of stories that inspire us and that let us know that if you work hard and you persevere, your dreams come true, and especially now that there's so many advances in technology, right?
We're seeing so many, and you know, I actually want to remind everybody of another story. It's AJ Buffetti. He's a 22-year-old who was born without one of his arms, and now he studied engineering, and through all of the things that he learned, he was actually able to create a prosthetic with a 3D printer. So we're seeing a lot of these stories where people just, you know, work towards making themselves better and to be like, you know, like they make themselves, you know, better. And a professor that he actually worked with said that he was fearless and he was ready to tackle the world and confront all of the problems that, you know, he had to deal with. So it's nice to see these kinds of things, and those words of that professor actually probably describe young Lily.
Indeed, and sometimes we limit ourselves, and the mind is very tricky, so sometimes maybe we don't have any disability, but it's all here in our minds. But well, that's all the time we have for today. I'm Maity Interiano. Thank you so much for letting me be part of this Unews group for the week, and I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time.